Name a more iconic tight end in college football over the last few years than Jake Butt. I'll wait, because there isn't one. Jake became a top playmaker for the Wolverines when he was there, was a first-team All-American twice, and one of the most popular players in college football. But what has happened to his once promising career, and where is he today in 2020? Today, we'll talk about the rise of Jake Butt, his time at Michigan, and why his NFL career has not worked out so far. But you gotta stay until the end to find out. First, if you love college football, be sure to hit that subscribe button, give the video a like to support the channel, share it with your friends, comment your thoughts, suggest a future video topic, and turn on post notifications so you never miss another upload of mine. I'll be uploading like crazy these next few months. Now let's get started with what happened to Jake Butt. Before we can understand what he's doing in 2020, we need to go back in time and see how Jake became a football star to begin with. Jake and his family grew up in the Columbus suburbs in a town called Pickerington, Ohio, and football ran in his blood. He always had great athletic genes in his back pocket because his grandfather never lost a game as an offensive lineman in high school or at Notre Dame in the 1940s, and his dad actually played rugby at Cincinnati. And fun fact, Jake's first word was apparently ball. He was a huge kid, and his mom even had him tested for a giant gene. He didn't end up having that gene, but he was going to be a giant kid. His mom had to bring his birth certificate to games until he was in 6th grade because people thought he was one of those people that had held their kid back for them to be better at sports. In terms of their last name, they embraced it. They said, quote, "We taught our kids at an early age just to have fun with it. The whole family, we just enjoy the silliness of it." But you probably didn't know this, but his first sport was not actually football. He actually tried baseball first. It was a little bit too slow paced for him, and he didn't really last that long with it. But soccer was a huge passion of his for years. He was thinking about going to the MLS all along. He played on all those elite travel teams and was a center midfielder, and half of the goals he apparently had were headers. He worked on his footwork almost every single day, and a lot of people say this is why he became such a good tight end. But 6th grade is when a lot of things changed. He decided to pick up football, and he wanted to be a quarterback. But the coach said he was too damn tall for it, and it took him too long to get out from under center. They said they could have used him better elsewhere, and his mom remembers when he caught his first pass as a 6th grader, and just the look on the dude's face. She said she saw something go off in him, and Jake said this could be fun. But it wasn't exactly a dream of his until a guest speaker one day in 6th grade. Greg Gilliam served as the director of player personnel and football operations under Jim Tressel at Ohio State, and he came to speak to his class one time in 2007, and that's when Butt realized that he wanted to be a professional football player and he was going to go all in. He would practice every day and became really good and was eventually a 2-time captain and a star at Pickerington North High School because of his size and his skill set, and he became a big-time recruit, but he would end up committing his sophomore year. But where was he going to go, and let's revisit his recruiting process. He said, quote, "I went to the Michigan-Ohio State game. I knew Michigan was the place for me because for the first time in my life, I found myself rooting for Michigan against Ohio State. They won that game, and I started to figure out right there that that was the place for me." He is referring to an unofficial visit that he took on November 26, 2011. Michigan would beat Ohio State 40-34 on that day, and he would officially get offered 3 years later. He never got serious interest from the Buckeyes in recruiting because they wanted Marcus Baugh instead. So what were Jake's other options? Well, there really weren't any. He'd get piles of recruiting letters from all the college football programs around the country, and his mom even made a poster board of all of them. She just used every school logo that made him an offer on one side and the logos of his dream schools on the other. Basically, this meant he could go wherever he wanted to go. He was waiting to see what Ohio State was going to do, but as I said earlier, Marcus Baugh was the guy that Ohio State wanted. He ended up meeting with the guys from Michigan, Brady Hoke in particular, and he knew at 16 years old he wanted to commit. As I said earlier, he was a sophomore at the time when he would commit. That is exactly what he did, and he became a Michigan Wolverine. He'd be a star the next 2 years, and his best friend would actually commit to Ohio State. According to 24/7 Sports, Butt was a 4-star recruit, the number 6 tight end, and the 166th best player in the class of 2013. Him and his name were ready to take over college football. Going into the 2013 season, Michigan had a lot of hype then as Brady Hoke was an up-and-coming coach. He made his collegiate debut on August 31st, 2013, and made his first career catch for 8 yards in a win over Central Michigan. He would catch his first touchdown pass from Devin Gardner against Northwestern, and had his biggest game of the year against Ohio State. He would catch 5 passes for 85 yards and a touchdown in that game, and Hoke famously decided to go for 2 and lost the game because of that. As a freshman, he catch 20 passes for 235 yards and a touchdown. The following season, Butt would miss his first 2 games of the season, while healing from a torn ACL he had, and this is something that would come up later again. He would catch 3 passes for 59 yards and a touchdown in a win over Miami, and would catch a season-high 4 passes for 35 yards and a touchdown against Ohio State, and he always seemed to play his best football against the Buckeyes. He would only start 5 games in 2014 and recorded 21 catches for 211 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was a tad bit disappointing, but Jake would get a breath of fresh air when Brady Hoke was fired after going 5-7. Who would come in? None other than Jim Harbaugh. His luck would change immediately, and during Michigan's season-opening loss to Utah, Butt made a career-high 8 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown, and this was the most catches by a tight end in a game in almost 40 years. A few weeks later, he caught a career-best 102 receiving yards against Rutgers, and he had an outstanding junior season. He became a first-team All-American as he caught 51 passes for 654 yards and 3 touchdowns while starting all 13 games for the Wolverines. So the big question was if he was going to return for his senior year or forego his eligibility and head to the NFL. He was predicted to be a second-round pick, but he decided he wanted to come back and go to Michigan because there's unfinished business, and Michigan was supposed to compete for a title that year, and they honestly did. Through his first 3 games of the season, he led the Wolverines with 15 catches and was second on the team behind Amara Darboh with 192 receiving yards. Michigan would start out amazing and was undefeated until an Iowa field goal ended that, but if they beat Ohio State, they would be in. After a very questionable call, Curtis Samuel won the game for the Buckeyes, and the dream season was over. During the 2016 season, Butt was the team's second leading receiver with 43 catches for 518 yards and 4 touchdowns, including 29 of those went for first downs. He became Michigan's all-time leading receiver in yards by a tight end with 1,646, and the program's record holder for career receptions by a tight end with 136. Following the 2016 season, Butt was named to the All-Big Ten Offensive First Team by both the coaches and the media, was a first-team All-American by some sites, and won the John Mackey Award for the nation's top tight end. Sadly, in his last collegiate game, he tore his ACL against Florida in the Orange Bowl, and this would hurt his draft stock and really hurt his career. He was originally projected to be a second-round pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, but the ACL tear would mess things up big time. He was unable to participate in drills at the Combine or during his pro day, and he was rated as the 5th or 6th best tight end on most big boards. He slipped on draft night, but the Denver Broncos selected him in the 5th round with the 145th overall pick in the 2017 draft. He was the 8th tight end drafted, but he reportedly received a $543,000 payout due to a loss of value insurance claim he received due to his ACL injury. He would sit out the entire 2017 season due to the ACL tear, and he was going to be the backup tight end going into the 2018 season. He ended up starting the season opener, and in his first game against the Seahawks, he would catch 2 passes for 29 yards, but then tragedy struck. He tore his ACL in practice, and it sidelined him for the next 2 seasons. In 2020, he came back finally, and he played in the first 5 games, but then he injured his hamstring, and he is now on injured reserve for the rest of the 2020 campaign. This is really sad to see, and sadly the man just can't stay healthy. I think he's torn his ACL 3 times and had a hamstring issue, and it may be time to hang the cleats up for him, to be honest. His NFL hopes are likely coming to an end, and after 4 years he's played in a total of 6 games, so his leash is probably really short right now. I just don't really see Jake Butt making an impact in the NFL, especially with Noah Fant and Albert Okwuegbunam on the Denver Broncos. Jake Butt definitely had one of the most iconic names. I remember being a younger kid laughing at it, which was stupid in retrospect. But it was really cool to see that guy do well. He was a really talented player for Michigan, and I wanted him to succeed in the NFL. But sadly, things just don't always work out, and like a lot of guys, injuries hamper people's careers. But what an iconic dude he was, and he was a ton of fun to watch in college. What do you guys think of Jake Butt and his story? And let me know the weirdest college football name you've ever heard down in the comment section. I want to see what you guys can come up with. Before you go, if you enjoyed the video or like his last name, give the video a like. I know Jake would appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and make sure to share this video with your friends, and comment your thoughts and suggest a future video topic down in the comment section. Check out all my other videos on the end screen, including a video I made about former Michigan quarterback Shea Patterson. And until next time, peace.